Hey guys, it's Jessica. Welcome back to my channel. This week is my birthday, and I am probably one of those people who make the entire week about their birthday, and I'm thinking as I get older about expanding that to an entire month because why not? But this year, the thing that I really wanted to start my birthday weekend with was to go to some little free libraries and donate some books that are no longer serving me and set those stories free into the world. I like that. So that other people could enjoy them. So we had a fun little road trip yesterday. Went to a nearby city about 45 minutes away from where I live that I have only been to a couple times, and dropped off a bunch of books in little free libraries that I found around the area. So I got rid of a ton of books and then decided to visit the local bookstores in the area because, a little bit of birthday money is a dangerous thing, but found some really great finds that I am so excited to share with you all today. I am going to do a little montage of our journey because I had a really great day. Was so fun, really fantastic birthday. But if you're just here for the books, it is chaptered. So if you want to skip ahead to that, you can, but otherwise, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, we are back, and I am excited to show you all of these books that I found. I only found one book in a little free library. There were a lot of kids' books and not a lot of adult books, and what there were not things that I was particularly interested in picking up right now. So I didn't get a lot there, but I did have great luck at the used bookstores in Dayton, Ohio, which is where we were. I picked up a ton of stuff, actually better luck than I ever have at the ones here in Cincinnati. So it was actually like a really great day for that. And I had some birthday money, and this is what I wanted to do for my birthday. So I am so excited to have picked up some books that have been on my list to try for a long time, as well as some that I hadn't heard of but look amazing. So let's go ahead and get started. I am gonna just randomly pick up a pile of books and start here and show you what I found. Okay, so I've got several stacks to get through here, so we're gonna try not to belabor it too much. But the first book here is one that I have really been dying to read, that I want to read at some point this winter because it feels very winter, and that is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This is the start of a series, and it is based on Russian folklore, which I'm very interested in. I've only read one book by Catherine Arden, which is The Warm Hand of Ghosts, which came out last year, which was a World War One story that also had some supernatural elements to it. And I thought it was quite good. I loved her writing. The story it wasn't a 5-star read for me, but everyone recommends this series so highly that I am very excited to try it. And this was on the clearance shelf at a used bookstore, so it was like $1. So very excited to find that. And then I also picked up a sequel to a book that I'm reading right now. So this month I am reading Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. And I picked up the sequel, Children of Virtue and Vengeance, because I was very excited again to find it on a clearance table for a few dollars. So I am really enjoying that book so far, and I am hoping it's going to be a pretty highly rated read for me. This is a young adult series, fantasy series. It's great. If you are at all interested, you should check it out. The covers are just, I don't know, they're so distinctive and fantastic, and I really love them. So pick this one up. And then I have a sci-fi book that I've actually not heard a lot about. So I was in the bookstore. I was looking up reviews of this because I thought I had wanted to read something by this author, but wasn't sure where to start. But then there was this one at the used bookstore. So I did pick up a copy of Aurora Rising by Alastair Reynolds. This is a sci-fi story that is described on the back of the book as a cross between a space opera and a police procedural. And that is something that sounds very similar to the setup of the first book of the Expanse series, Leviathan Wakes, if you've read that. But that appeals to me. The idea of that appeals to me. So I looked up reviews. Reviews were pretty good of it. And I thought, I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to try this to be my first book by this author. Hopefully there's quite a lot of sci-fi in here. I tried, because I am really trying to kind of increase the amount of science fiction that I have on my shelves because I have so much fantasy, and sci-fi is my first love. So if you've read this one, do let me know, or if there's something else by the author that you would recommend as a good starting point, but this is the one I have, so it's probably where I'm going to start right now. Now I have two books that are continuations of series that I have. This is the latest book in the Wayward Children series. This is Mislaid in Parts Half Known. I think it's the latest one. It's got a dinosaur on the cover, so that's distinctive. I'm pretty sure that's the latest one. I have not caught up. I do have behind me on the shelf these this stack of books right here, the skinny ones. Those are the Wayward Children books. And I am about halfway through the series right now. She has another one coming out this year. I feel like she has one coming out every year. I really love this series. It is portal fantasy about children who fall through portals into other worlds that seem kind of very specifically meant for them, and what happens to them when they come back and they have difficulty adjusting. It deals with a lot of really kind of heavy themes. I think some people consider this to be young adult. I wouldn't necessarily consider it to be young adult, but I would let a young adult read it. I don't know if that makes sense, but I really enjoy the series. So now I have all the books that are currently released. And then another Shauna Maguire book is Tidal Creatures by Shauna Maguire. This is the third book in this series that is called Alchemical Journeys. And I have not actually read the series yet, and yet I have now all 3 books. I mean, I found them at the library store, so I thought, I wanted to get the hardcovers. So I went ahead and picked up the hardcovers, and I love the covers on these. I think they're so distinctive. The first book in this series is Middle Game. You may have seen that all over the place, but I'm really excited to get to this series possibly this year. Since I own it, I really should prioritize it, but I am pretty excited to read it. I've heard great things. Next book I have is a little bit different from a lot of the things that I read, but it looks cute and sometimes I need a break. This is published by Torteen and it is 12th Night. And it is a little bit of a, I would say a nerd young adult romance. The main character here, I think her name is Vi, and you see that she is somebody who really loves playing her online role-playing game. And this is, I think he's a football player. Is he a football player? They're always football players in these games. Yeah, football player who starts playing the game too when he's injured. And they find themselves very well matched in online gameplay and perhaps in real life. Sounds adorable. Sounds so cute. It's got these funny little sprayed edges. It says, I don't know if you can see it, it says game on, and then it's got a very fun internal cover, and then it's got this little thing on the outside. It's just overall like really, really cute. I got this at, I don't remember what the bookstore is called. It's like whatever the boutique version of Books A Million is. I didn't even know it was Books A Million, but we went there. It's in Kettering, Ohio. And they had a very, very large clearance book section. So I had seen this book downstairs, the paperback on the full price table, and then they had the hardback, which I guess they were trying to get rid of, upstairs for like $4. So really excited to try this one out. Then we have the only new book that I picked up yesterday. This is not sci-fi fantasy, but it is a book that I am extremely excited to read, and that is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. This is a story, it's a little bit of a history of tuberculosis and also about what's going on in the world today. It's got some personal stories in it, and I, like everyone else on the internet and in the book space, just really, really love John Green. Just think he's an A+ human and want to support him. And so my partner Sean has already read this book and he gave it 5 stars and loved it. So I haven't read it yet, but I really want to, and I need to read some more nonfiction this year. So I went ahead and picked it up, and I am excited to get to it, to get an autographed copy. So that's fun as well. But it's the only full price book that I did pick up for my birthday. If you watched my last couple videos, you may have seen me talking about Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillier, which I am absolutely obsessed with after having read it. And now I want to read the whole series. And to that end, I have started picking up books from that series when I see them. Still haven't found the first one in the old covers, but I love the old hardbacks, the old cover design. I just think they're very classic, and I don't like the new ones, which I think are really boring. So I picked up the second book in the series. This is Son of the Shadows. So this is the one that I'm going to read next. I'm going to put that forward so you can see that classic cover. I found this at Half Price Books. It was $5, and it's in great condition. I don't know like how old this actual copy is, but it's very heavy in the way that older hardbacks are, but I'm pretty excited to read this one. Love the cover design. And then I also have down here another book from the series. This is actually, so I think, you all can correct me if I'm wrong, that this series has 2 kind of trilogies within it. And I think this is book 6, or the 3rd book in the 2nd trilogy. This is Flame of Seven Waters. So I picked this one up also because they had it at the store. I love the cover, love those dogs, very stylized, really just like a great cover design. We need more covers like this. So I'm excited to get to that whenever I get to it. So I'm going to keep collecting those until I have the whole series. It's my plan. And let's see, what do I have? I have a novella that I've seen a lot of people reading and really loving lately. This is The Fireborn Blade by Charlotte Bond. I love a lady swordsman. Just really love it. Don't know a lot about this. It says, kill the dragon, find the blade, reclaim her honor. It's that or end up like countless nights before her as a puddle of gore and molten armor. Madelay is a knight. There aren't many women in her line of work, and it often feels like the sneering and contempt of her peers are harder to stomach than the actual dragon slaying. But she's a knight and made of sterner stuff. So there are 2 books in this little novella series so far, and like I said, I've just heard some really great things. I think that Elliot Brooks is a really big fan of this, and I tend to have pretty similar taste to her. So when I saw it, I was like, yes, I'm going to try that one. It's been on my list to pick up when I saw it. And then speaking of novellas, I don't know if you're new here, you may not know yet that every time I see a Tor.com novella in the wild at a used bookstore, I just buy it because I find novellas hard to find and they are easy to fit in when I need a break in between heavy books. So I don't know anything about this one. I've never heard of it, but I own it now, and it is Rosebud by Paul Cornell. And on the back it says, the crew of the Rosebud are currently, and by force of law, a balloon, a goth, some sort of science aristocrat possibly, a ball of hands, and a swarm of insects. And the quote at the top says, cutting edge science fiction from a writer at the very top of their game. So, very short little novella, science fiction, some kind of ragtag crew on a spaceship, which is a trope that I personally always really enjoy. If you read this one, let me know, because I have literally never heard of it and did not look it up, just put it straight in my cart because it was in clearance and it was a Tor.com book, so let me know. Then I have the second book in a series that I have given 5 stars to both volumes of so far, and that is The Ragpicker King by Cassandra Clare. I already own the first book, so this is going on my shelf next to it. I kind of, like I said, like to keep all my 5-star books in physical copies so that I can reread them later if I want to, or just gaze at them on my shelves and think, oh, those were such great reads. I really enjoyed this series. I do have a history reading Cassandra Clare when I was younger, so your mileage may vary. It's a series that I always recommend to people that are just kind of starting out in fantasy because they are long, but it's all pretty approachable, pretty tropey. It treads a line between, I think, young adult and adult. It would probably be more categorized as new adult, especially based on the ages of the characters within it. Does follow a character who is a sword catcher, who is kind of the double of the prince, designed to sit in for him at dangerous events and kind of protect him at all costs. And there's a lot of political intrigue. There's a lot of stuff going on with discrimination against different ethnic groups within this world. I'm just really enjoying it, so would definitely recommend this one. And then I found a book that I have been looking for a used copy of for literally years. And I was so excited. And it's not an old book, but I wanted to find it used. And I did. And that is Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. Horror Store is a horror novel that is set in, we can't say it's IKEA for, trademarked reasons, but it's an IKEA. Okay, look at this cover, which is like so obviously the IKEA catalog cover. And I don't know, it's just really fantastic. And he plays around with a lot of stuff that if you've ever been in an IKEA. The book itself that has like all of the I don't know. It just feels like there's an order form in here. And then I'm not going to get into the book too much, but product photos, and then beyond that, it's going to be spoilery, so I won't. But this is a pretty good book. Do I think it's Grady Hendrix's best book? Not really, but I think it's good. And I think the idea of it is so unique that it's definitely worth reading, especially if you have spent a lot of time at IKEA, like I have. I just think it's really good and very enjoyable. And I was almost completed my Grady Hendrix collection, which is over here. You can see I am still missing a copy of his newest book, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, which I am waiting to get used, but have not found yet. And unfortunately, this is not going to line up with all the others because it's a totally weird shape. But I am so excited to finally have it, and I'm going to be convincing Sean that he needs to read this one because I think he would really like it. Next, I have a book that I have not read that I am so excited to read, and that is Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. And this edition, I think I got this at Half Price Books, and I think that it is so fun of an edition. It's just like the naked hardcover. It doesn't have a dust jacket, and I just find it to be like so great. This is definitely a British edition. It says in here, from her place in the store, Clara, an artificial friend with outstanding observational qualities, watches carefully the behavior of those who come in to browse and those who pass on the street. She remains hopeful a customer will choose her soon, but when the possibility emerges that her circumstances may change forever, she's warned to not invest too much in the promises of humans. And I love a book about artificial intelligence. I love a book about robots and the questions that kind of thing brings up. There are a lot of video games that explore this really well, and this is definitely one that I'm interested in reading. I have not read a book by Ishiguro, so this would be, is that right? No, I read one. I read Never Let Me Go. But this would be my second book. But I I am really excited to read it. And as I said, I really like this edition. I think it's really cool. It's got very nice, thick paper, and I'm excited to read it. This next one was definitely a cover buy. I've seen a few reviews of it online that were good, but it's a cover buy. I bought it because this cover is amazing, and that is Ocean's Godori by Elaine Yu Cho. So I'm going to put that cover forward so you can see it. It's just a fantastic cover, and this is about a character named Ocean, who it says has never felt very Korean, even if she is descended from a long line of Jeju Island's beloved female divers. When her best friend Teo, second son of Anantech Empire, is framed for murdering his family, Ocean and her misfit crewmates are pushed to the forefront of a high-stakes ideological conflict. But dodging bullets in space chases may be the easiest part of what comes next. So, space opera, kind of actiony, I think. As I said, trying to pick up some more science fiction. This came out last year, and I know there's a sequel coming out this year. And maybe it already came out. I think maybe it came out last month, and I didn't talk about it in my upcoming releases because I hadn't read this one yet, but I am excited to read this one and would love to hear if you have read this one. The next one is a stretch for me because of its format, and that is Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Nouveau. Am I going to like this book? It's got a really interesting format. It's about a girl named Rose riding her new bike near her home in Deadwood, South Dakota when she falls through the earth and into the palm of a giant metal hand. 17 years later, the mystery of the bizarre artifact remains unsolved. Its origins, architects, and purposes unknown. Rose, now a highly trained physicist, leads a top-secret team determined to crack the code while powerful forces with uncertain motives close in. So that's a really interesting setup for a story. But what I will tell you is that this entire book is written in interview form. And I'm going to just show you like the very first page here so you can see what I mean by that. Traditionally, books that are written in like really weird ways like that, like interviews with different people, I say that I love it. It sounds so cool. And then I have a hard time sticking with it. So we are going to see about this one. And I did not realize when I initially took it off the shelf that it was like that. And then when I was checking out, the person at the checkout was like, "Oh, I love that book because it's all told in interview form." And I was like, oh. But it was too late and I was committed. But I have heard really good things about this series. It is a completed trilogy. So I would love to hear if you've read it and how you felt about that format. But I am kind of excited to give it a try, and it's not super long. Then we have some classic fantasy by an author who I've not read before that I have been saying I want to try, and that is Robin McKinley. And this is The Hero and the Crown. And this has a really kind of uninspiring cover on it, I would say, and a sticker that I can't get off because it's been on there for so long. I don't know how long this was in the half-price books before I bought it, but this is the winner of the Newbery Medal, and I do love to read books that won the Newbery Medal. I love children's books that are really well told. I always try to keep up on that and read whatever won the award that year, but I haven't read this one. So it says, from childhood, Erin had been haunted by the story of her mother, a witch woman who expelled the king and then died in childbirth, leaving behind a newborn daughter and an heirless land. Left to her own devices, she grew up wild, doing her best to live up to her reputation as the disappointment of the realm. But little did the young princess know that the long-dormant powers of her mother would wield their own destiny and leave Erin with a duty to her scornful homeland that she couldn't refuse. It just sounds so classic. It just sounds, I don't know, it sounds great. And I've never, as I said, I've never read anything by Robin McKinley, and definitely an author that I am interested in exploring. And this is the one they had at the store. And also I like that it's like a middle grade book and that it's not, a series. I think it's not a series. And that it's going to, I don't know, hopefully be heartwarming and really, really great to read. And I am so excited about it. So lots of you all probably read this in childhood, but I did not. One of my favorite writers is coming out with a new book this year, and that is Alex E. Harrow. One of my most exciting birthday week things this week was that I got approved for an arc of her new book, The Everlasting, which is about a lady knight. There's a lot of lady knight books this year, if you haven't noticed. I'm really excited to read that, but I thought maybe I should try to catch up on some of her other books first, and so I have picked up The Once and Future Witches. This is a pretty, chunky book, and it's very, I would say it's controversial because it is a paperback and it has the deckled edges. And I know I don't mind deckled edges. I am iffy about deckled edges on a paperback because that just seems odd. But anyway, this is a story about the Eastwood witches, James Juniper, Agnes Amaranth, and Beatrice Belladonna, who join the suffragists of New Salem as they begin to pursue the forgotten words and ways that might turn the women's movement into the witches' movement. So it's historical fantasy based around like suffragette witches. And I love Alex E. Hero. And I have not heard as much about this book as I have about her other books. This is the only one that I have not read. So I am pretty excited to read this one, and it sounds great. And I've been very into historical fantasy lately, so hopefully this one's going to be great. These next three I'll just show you all together. I am trying to collect all the Murderbot books. I am not caught up on Murderbot, and I have not seen the show, and I don't know if I want to see the show because you all tell me if it's good. Tell me if it's good and if it's worth it. I was very uncertain about how you would turn a book like this where you spend so much time inside Murderbot's head into a TV show. Let me know. So I picked up 3 volumes. These are not in order. I have Rogue Protocol, Artificial Condition, and Exit Strategy. So this is what, 3, which one is Artificial Condition? 2, 3, and then this is like, I don't even know, like 7. So I'm missing some books in there, but we're gonna get there. I didn't want to get the bind up because I really love the original artwork on these. I just really, I don't know, treasure fun, spacey sci-fi art, something that I think we don't do enough of anymore. So I'm excited to get to those at some point. And I have one more stack of books. I hope you're enjoying this. I have picked up a lot of things that I am interested in reading, and this one is called This Will Be Fun, and it's by E.B. Asher. And I am going to be honest with you guys and tell you this is another one that is kind of a cover buy for me. I think that's a fantastic cover. Very into the typography on that. I think it looks great. I would describe this as being kind of a what happens after the quest is over kind of story. So we have a group of friends who, I haven't read this yet, but it seems like from the back a very kind of like, we all went on a quest together when we were in school and defeated the evil lord, like that kind of thing. And now it's years later, they don't talk anymore, but they are all at the wedding for one of them. So, and then obviously there's going to be some more questing. We love questing. This I think is cozy. It's supposed to be a little bit cozy. And I've seen mixed reviews on it, but I have wanted to read it since it came out because I just love the cover and that sounds like such a fun idea. And I read a lot of serious stuff. So having some things that are less serious to break it up are always good for me. So. And speaking of serious, so I would consider myself to be not new to fantasy, but I wasn't reading fantasy in the 80s and the 90s. So everything that came out then is like all mostly brand new to me. So I picked up a copy of the first book of The Wheel of Time for a few dollars, The Eye of the World, and I'm very intimidated by it. This first volume is 800 pages long. I can read a long book. I read Stormlight Archive. I can read a long book. I've heard so much stuff about this. So many people who say that there are whole sections of this really long series that are so slow, but also that it's ultimately really worth it. And I am so curious. And this has a very nice floppy paperback, which I love. But yeah, I don't know. I was like, yeah, I'll try it. Let's pick up this used copy of The Wheel of Time, The Eye of the World, and see how I feel about it. I would love if those of you who have read the series give me a little bit of a pep talk for starting this, because as I said, there's a lot of stuff that I just have not read that I have missed out on that I would really like to try, but I am sometimes a little bit intimidated by it, and this is definitely a series that I am intimidated by, so let me know. Then we have a novella. You know, I love a novella that is in the same series as one of my favorite standalone fantasy novels, which I'm kind of questioning, is it a standalone fantasy novel? As I say that, the novel that I'm speaking of is Master of Jim by P.J. Lee Clark, which I think is a fantastic kind of a steampunky, set in Egypt in the early 20th century story with jinns and magic, and it's It's fantastic. I would recommend it. And this is the novella set in the same world. This is called The Haunting of Tramcar 15. And it's just got, again, an amazing piece of cover art there. I love it. And I think that this is taking place before the novel, because as I recall, the novel has places where it references things that happened in either this or in the short story that goes along with it. And I'm not sure which one it is, but I definitely need to read the rest of those and see what I think. But I love P. Lee Clark. He's a fantastic author. If you haven't read anything by him, I would recommend Master of Jen. I haven't read everything by him, but I just think he's great, and I'm really excited to read this one. Now I have two books that are in the same series, and I picked them both up because I'm really excited for it, and I've heard good things, and it's got space cats. So we have Chilling Effect and also Prime Deceptions by Valerie Valdez. Valerie Valdez is an author I have not read anything from before. This is about Captain Ava and the crew of La Sirena Negra, who cruise the universe delivering small cargo for even smaller profits. When her sister is kidnapped by the Fridge, a shadowy syndicate that holds people hostage, Ava must undergo a series of unpleasant, deadly missions to pay the ransom. She may lose her mind before she can raise the money. The ship's hold is full of psychic cats. An amorous fish-faced emperor wants her dead after she rejects his advances, and her sweet engineer is giving her a pesky case of the feelings. The worse things get, the more she lies, raising suspicions and testing her loyalty to her found family. So, found family, spaceship, book. Do I need to say more? Books like this are hit or miss for me, but I did pick up both these because they were both together, and space cats, psychic space cats apparently in both. Here you see we have a cat in a box. So cat. So very cat. Anyway, so I'm excited about reading those two at some point. Then I have a book that I highlighted a couple of months ago in one of my upcoming releases videos that I specifically highlighted the cover of, and I did not think I was going to find it at the used bookstore already, but I did, and that is Portal Mania, short stories by Debbie Urbanski. And, I mean, obsessed. And even better, I have to show you the back of the book, which I have never seen before. Look at the other half of that portal. Yes. This is a series of sci-fi, fantasy, short stories. I know that there are a lot of things the author and a couple of other people have said to me that are pretty intense. So probably I'm going to be looking up content warnings, but I'm sure I'm going to read it anyway. Reading short stories is something that I want to be better at, and I want to read more short stories. So I'm trying to collect short story collections in the hope that it's going to get me to realize you don't have to read the whole book. Because I think that's what I get into with short stories is I go, well, if I start one, I've got to read the whole collection. And that is not true. You can read a story and dip out for a while and then maybe come back later, and that's all right. So that's a pretty good one. Love the cover. This next book is not fantasy sci-fi. It's the only other, I think there's two in here that aren't. And it's, again, me attempting to pretend like I read romance, even though I don't anymore very much. But this is First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. And I have read B.K. Borison's other series, the kind of like Small Town Christmas Tree Farm one. I can't remember the name of the first book right now, but those are very cute. This is a retelling of the movie Sleepless in Seattle, which I have been watching. I've seen a few videos where people read this who were younger than me, and they were like, and I've never seen that classic film. And then I felt very ancient because I have seen it many times. I own the VHS tape. But anyway, this is probably cute. I think it's going to be cute. My copy is purple, and a lot of the ones I see are pink. So I don't know if this one came from a different store or what, but I'm going to get to this at some point, and I'm sure it's going to be a nice break from a lot of the heavy things that I read. And I have another book that the sequel just came out to that I need to get to, and that is To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monoquill Blackgoose. This is a young adult story. It is about a magical school for people that are bonded to dragons, I believe. And it looks fantastic. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I've seen a lot of people whose opinions I really respect reading it. So I do want to read it. And I had a copy from the library store that I had picked up, but the cover got really destroyed when I took the library stickers off. And also it had a lot of icky stuff on the inside. So I picked up a clean copy from the used bookstore to try to read and hopefully get through so I can check out the sequel when it comes out, but this one I've heard such good things about. And then a book that's not new that I really want to read that I have wanted to read for a long time. I've talked about on this channel before because I own the sequel that I wanted to read this book, but I was trying to find the first book and now I have it, and that is Vita Nostra. I don't know what this book's about. And somebody commented on, one of y'all commented on my last time I talked about this series and said that you have read the books and you also don't know what it's about. So I think that sounds great. I know it's translated fantasy. I'm looking at the back and something about strange golden coins. I don't know. It's a fantasy book. I've heard it's very strange and surrealistic, and I, again, think it's a fantastic cover. So many great covers. And now I have a couple more. Another Alexi Harrow. I said I'd read everything by her, but apparently I did not mean her two books of kind of like fractured fairy tales, if you will. And this is A Mirror Mended, so it is retelling the story of Snow White. This is a novella. There's another one that I think is Sleeping Beauty. Is that right? Or is this one Sleeping Beauty? This one is Sleeping Beauty, maybe? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, this is the second one in the series. I don't know if you have to read the first one first, but I picked this one up because I saw it, and it's a novella. Cute little book, and I think these are quite funny. And I find Alexi Harrow to be very funny in her social media posts, but I don't think that her books that I've read are super funny. So maybe this one's going to be kind of more on that side, and I'm looking forward to it. And then I have one more book from my book haul, and then I have a couple books that I received in the mail that I will show really quickly because I'm hoping to read one of them soon. But the last book I have here is one that I have been looking for, and that is a clean used copy of Malice by John Gwynne. So I just read the first book of the Bloodsworn Saga, which I have up there, and I really enjoyed it. I felt like it had a lot of setup, so it wasn't quite as exciting as maybe it could have been, but I loved the background and the world building of the world, and I'm so excited for book 2. So I thought that if I saw it out somewhere, I would go ahead and start picking up his other series, at least the first book, so I can try the first book and see how I feel about it. And this one is very chunky, but I've heard great things. I'm excited about it. So I did pick this up. This is not one that I commonly tend to see at used bookstores. So I was excited to find it when I was there on my birthday. Now I have 2 more books. These are both books that I got in the mail. So they did not come from they are not part of my birthday haul, but I do have a book that I've read before and a new one. I found a code for $4 for your first book from Aardvark Book Club. And they had a couple books this month, well, one book this month that I really wanted to get. So I went ahead and did it so that I could get my $4 book. And then I had to get a second one because it's one that I rated 5 stars when I read it, and I wanted to have it for my shelf. So the book that I have read before is The Scholar and the Last Fairy Door by H.G. Perry. So I got a hardcover copy of this. I don't think that this was actually published in hardcover. H.G. Perry's books are usually soft cover only. So I have a hardcover of it. And I'm excited for that. At some point, I'm probably going to reread this one because it's quite chunky and I have forgotten some of it. And then the book that I am reading this month that I have not started yet, but I am so excited about, is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sanju Mandana. This is about a witch who is disgraced and has lost a lot of her powers, who is running a magical inn, who has a magical fox best friend, Snarky Fox, I think. There he is on the cover right there. And I just thought I'd try it out. I don't have book of the month, but I would say that the quality of the hardcovers from Aardvark feel nicer than the book of the month books that I have on my shelf because I've gotten them from like the thrift store and things like that. I also like that this particular book has the cover is like, or the hardcover is actually like ombre, which is fun, I think, but it feels like a pretty good quality thing. And I don't know if I'm going to stick with it or not. I'm not like much of one for necessarily like having to pick something every month, although I know you can skip, but we'll see. Depends on what kind of books they have, but I'm really excited to start reading this one in the next week or so. Yeah, the next week. I think I'm going to read one more book. I've got The first book, or the next book in the Expanse series, is my next read, and then I'm planning to start this one after that. And I am very excited about it. It looks so cozy. Thank you so much for coming on this birthday book adventure with me. I loved getting to rehome some old stories to new people, and then finding some new sci-fi fantasy books that I am really excited to read. Leave me a comment and let me know, what is the last book that you brought home that you felt like was meant just for you? And if you're feeling quiet but you made it to the end and you would like to let me know you were here, go ahead and leave me the cardboard box emoji, and I will put that down in the comments so you know what I'm talking about. But just because I had a lot of cardboard boxes full of books in my back seat yesterday, driving around and dropping them off. So, and with that, I hope that you all have a fantastic day. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.